again. Welcome everybody to the inaugural Ocean Decade Dialogue of the German Ocean Foundation. My name is Julia Ritter, and I work with the Foundation, supporting them with some of their ocean literacy activities. This is the very first of our dialogues. We are looking today at the UN Ocean Decade Challenge #1, particularly focusing on the Baltic, and looking at identification, reduction and removal of pollution in the Baltic. This is the very first of our series that we have now launched together, the Ocean Decade Dialogues and the Ocean Forum. That's an in-person event which we hold every year at Bord Düsseldorf, every year in January. And these make up the Ocean Conference Series, which is one of our key projects to support ocean literacy and develop awareness about the Ocean Decade of Ocean Science, or the UN Decade of Ocean Science, and generally awareness about the ocean among civil society, among businesses, politicians, and so on. Looking at the decade, it focuses on 10 challenges. There are 7 outcomes that they are hoping that will result from many projects and events, activities which are happening all over the world, all with the idea of developing ocean science. Now, this first dialogue then will be looking at the way in which we can understand, map and land and sea-based sources of pollution, contaminants, and their impacts on human health and ocean ecosystems, and how we can develop solutions to remove or mitigate them. We will be hearing from 2 speakers, from Ms. Susanna Kaasinen of the HELCOM Secretariat. She will be talking about the Commission's actions for a healthy Baltic Sea and their work to achieve good environmental status for the Baltic. Then we're going to look at a form of pollution that perhaps not everybody thinks of straight away when they think about pollution. There are other forms such as agricultural runoff or harmful chemicals in wastewater, operational discharges from the shipping industry, or noise. These might spring to mind when we're thinking about pollution, but less so the legacy munition left over from world wars or indeed other conflicts around the world. In the Baltic Sea, the legacy munition is estimated at about 40,000 tonnes of chemical munitions, with over 1 million tonnes of unexploded ordnance. We will welcome Dr. Patrick Witze of Seaterra, who will take us through this highly challenging task of first locating and then removing munitions from the seabed. Before we begin, just some housekeeping rules. I'm sure you've had this in many other webinars, just to make sure that we run this smoothly. We'll be keeping your microphones muted until we get to the Q&A. And when we do that, we can unmute you if you would like to put a question. Your cameras are also switched off. So again, during the Q&A, we can allow you to put your cameras on if you wish. For general questions, feel free, please, to use the chat function. And for questions to the speakers, then the Q&A function should be used. And we will address the questions at the end of the presentations. If you would like to put your own question to the speakers, then please just use the raise hand feature, and then we'll call on you. I wish to remind you that we are recording this webinar. We will be putting it on our YouTube channel so that we can share it with those who were unable to attend today, and we can share the recording with you afterwards, as well as the slides from the speakers. So, if you have any problems, technical problems, during the course of the webinar, please message me in the chat. And with that, I'm happy to hand over to you, Frank, Director of the German Ocean Foundation, for his words of welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia, and welcome all of you for this first official Ocean Dialogue in 2025, contributing to the Ocean Decade. To the decade of ocean science for sustainable development in detail. So we did some previous dialogues before, because the German Ocean Foundation founded 10 years ago. So we have the 10th anniversary this year. Is set up to advocate for sustainable use, development and protection of our ocean as a common heritage of humankind, and based on scientific knowledge. So I'm very happy to have this kind of series here, because we need to talk. And as it came out also from the first National Ocean Conference in Berlin last week, I think the dialogue is really, really important. So our mission is to create synergies between society, business, science and politics. And I think that in terms of the United Nations Ocean Decade for Science and Sustainable Development, we really need to achieve solutions. And I'm very happy to talk about solutions today. And Patrick is someone I know since many, many years. So he's very pragmatic, working now on the removal of the military stuff in the Bay of Neustadt. I'm very curious where we go in this way. And I'm also very happy that Julia took the task to organize this Ocean Decade Dialogue series. And we are very happy to be part of the official programs of this United Nations Ocean Decade as an endorsed project. Okay, so far from my side. I myself, I'm not only the director of the German Ocean Foundation and founder, I'm also the director of the German Society for Marine Research and also the German Marine Litter Association. And all of us, we really need to work on becoming the ocean clean. And let me finalize one remark, which is dedicated to the plan of the government to make a ocean park or ocean sanctuary in the Baltic Sea. I think now we are on a really good way to break it down to the kind of idea of marine man and biosphere areas. So I think that we humans are part of the system, part of the ocean, and we should not keep out. And I think the task to remove the ammunition is a really very important one, because last year we made some excursions with our research vessel Aldebaran very closely to these areas where the ammunition was dumped, and it's only a few meters away from our beautiful beaches. And so thanks a lot, Julia, for organizing this meeting, and microphone is back to you.
Thank you, Frank. So turning now to our first speaker, Susanna Kaasinen, who's been working in the HELCOM Secretariat since 2015. Susanna was involved in the 2021 update of the HELCOM Baltic Sea Action Plan, which has already resulted in a number of environmental improvements, for example, reduction in nutrient inputs to the sea and a better state of biodiversity in the Baltic. She currently supports the work of the HELCOM Working Group on the source-to-sea management of nutrients and hazardous substances and sustainable agricultural practices, and the HELCOM Working Group on the implementation of the ecosystem approach, as well as subgroups dealing with eutrophication, hazardous substances, and economic and social analysis. So, Susanna, maybe you could share your screen and then you can take it from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. And thanks for inviting me here to share what HELCOM is doing. Just a moment, I will share my screen. And I hope you can see the slides now. Okay, great. Yes, so indeed, good evening, everybody. I'm Susanna Kaasinen from the HELCOM Secretariat. I'm going to start off with some quick facts on the Baltic Sea. Then I'm going to talk about what is HELCOM, and then about the actions we have taken for a healthy Baltic Sea. So first of all, those quick facts on the Baltic Sea. So as you maybe know, the Baltic Sea is unique but young and fragile ecosystem. It has a catchment area that is very large compared to the water area. As you can see in this picture, this dotted area. So it's actually 4 times the area of the sea. The Baltic Sea catchment area, there is a large population living there. It's around 85 million people. It's also a busy waterway, lots of ship traffic every day. And all of this means that there are multiple pressures that are affecting the Baltic Sea. And also due to these special features that the It's almost landlocked. The water exchange is quite limited, so if some pollution enters the Baltic Sea, it takes a long time to go out of there to the Atlantic. HELCOM, or the Helsinki Convention, got started when the Helsinki Convention was signed by the then 7 contracting parties in 1974. So these are the coastal countries of the Baltic Sea. Sorry, there's some background noise now. Okay, thanks. And then the convention was renewed in 1992 after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and it currently has 10 contracting parties, so those are the coastal countries of the Baltic Sea and the European Union. And here is some more information of our structure. So indeed, the convention is what's guiding our work, and you can see there the flags of the contracting parties. And our main decision-making body is the Helsinki Commission that meets once a year, and then heads of delegation representing each of the contracting party. They also meet twice a year, and all of those bodies can make decision. And then we have a ministerial meeting around every 3 years or so. And in addition, we have those working groups. Some of them Julia mentioned in her introduction of me. So we have working groups dealing with purification of hazardous substances or biodiversity, etc. And then we still have expert groups that are dealing with even more specific topics like benthic habitats or marine litter, for example. And I work at the HELCOM Secretariat, which coordinates the work and meetings of the Helsinki Commission and ensures that the contracting parties meet their obligations under the Helsinki Convention. And just also a quick look on the tools we have. Of course, the convention mentioned already. It's an instrument of international law that contains our objectives and obligations. We also adopt recommendations to address areas of concern that are to be implemented through national legislation or similar measures. We have action plans. The Baltic Sea Action Plan is our main tool, but we also have more topic-specific action plans, like an action plan on marine litter, and then several projects. And we also do assessments on the state of the Baltic Sea, and this is what I'm going to share next. So these are this is a summary of the results of the latest holistic assessment on the state of the Baltic Sea. We call it HOLAS 3. It was the third holistic assessment. So it's based on the data from 2016 to 2021. And these are the integrated assessment results for 3 pressures, eutrophication, hazardous substances, and commercial fishing, and then various biodiversity components. And here, if you see red, it means that the status is not good. And if it's green, it means that the status is good. And unfortunately, as you see from this figure, most of the area of the Baltic Sea was assessed not to be in good status related to these biodiversity components or related to these pressures. And the messages from the latest holistic assessment were that the Baltic Sea is under increasing impact from climate change and biodiversity degradation, catalyzed by eutrophication, pollution, land use, and resource extraction. There is little to no improvement of the Baltic Sea environment occurred during that assessment period. However, when measures are taken to reduce pressures on the Baltic Sea, they are working when they are implemented, and the agreements in the updated Baltic Sea Action Plan remain highly relevant. The effects of climate change are expected to increase in the future, increasing the need for measures to enhance ecosystem resilience and mitigate their negative impacts. Transformative changes are needed in all socioeconomic sectors interacting with or affecting the Baltic Sea environment, and actions are needed both to stop current negative trends and to protect and restore ecosystems. And ecosystem knowledge and policies for the Baltic Sea environment have developed substantially within the past 6 years. Now about the Baltic Sea Action Plan, which I mentioned, that is HELCOM's strategic program to reach a good environmental status of the Baltic Sea. It was originally adopted in 2007. Then it had the goal to reach the good environmental status by 2021. Unfortunately, that did not happen. So that's why the Baltic Sea Action Plan was updated in 2021. And here you can see the overarching vision which is a healthy Baltic Sea environment with diverse biological components functioning in balance, resulting in a good ecological status supporting a wide range of sustainable economic and social activities. So this is a very ambitious but very inspiring vision. And to reach this vision, we have 4 goals that are also the segments of the Baltic Sea Action Plan. So there's the biodiversity segment with the goal of Baltic Sea ecosystem is healthy and resilient. And to reach these goals, we have these 3 pyramids that needs, and their goals need to be met so that we could meet the biodiversity goals. And they are that Baltic Sea is unaffected by hazardous substances and litter. There's environmentally sustainable sea-based activities, and that Baltic Sea is unaffected by eutrophication. So these are the goals that we are striving towards. Then the Baltic Sea Action Plan includes also a segment on horizontal actions. So these are cross-cutting themes like climate change or monitoring or knowledge exchange and awareness raising. All in all, there are 199 actions in the Baltic Sea Action Plan, and they have individual target years for the implementation, but at the latest, all actions should be implemented by 2030. And they have been assigned to one or several HELCOM bodies. I mentioned those working groups and expert groups we have. And the groups are guiding and monitoring the implementation of the actions. And some of the actions are to be implemented nationally by the countries, and some are implemented jointly by the HELCOM working groups or expert groups. And all actions have a more specific criteria for achievement so that we know how we can measure that we have actually implemented the actions. And we are tracking the progress. The first reporting on the implementation is happening this year. And we have an online tool called HELCOM Explorer where anyone could see how far we have come after the reporting is done the next year. And of course, in addition to tracking the implementation, we track the effects of the measures with the holistic assessment, as mentioned. So then there will be a HOLOS 4 where we see how far the implementation of the Baltic Sea Action Plan has gotten us. As mentioned, there are 199 actions, and I can't cover them all, and not even all of the themes that are in the Baltic Sea Action Plan, so I'm just going to focus on a few. Starting with eutrophication, which is perhaps the biggest pressure on the Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea Action Plan includes a nutrient input reduction scheme, and it has both net national input ceilings. So these are input ceilings for all of the coastal countries of the Baltic Sea. And it also has input ceilings for the Baltic Sea shipping and North Sea shipping, for example, for air emissions. But in addition, it has maximum allowable inputs for all the sub-basins of the Baltic Sea. And that is what you see on this screen. So this is the latest report on the total nitrogen and further phosphorus inputs in 2022 compared to the maximum allowable inputs. And you see the maximum allowable inputs for each of the sub-basin, that is the line. And if the bar is green, that means that the maximum allowable inputs, we have reached the target, so we are below the inputs. And then if it's red, you see that the bar is above the line, and that means that we haven't reached the target. And then for Gulf of Riga, you see that it's yellow. That means that we are uncertain if we have yet reached the target. So there's like statistical uncertainty. So we cannot say that yes or no. And on the top left-hand corner, you see the bars for the whole Baltic Sea. And there you can see that overall we haven't reached the targets. But of course, it's very positive that we have for some sub-basins. But especially if you look on the Baltic proper, we are lacking very much, especially on the phosphorus still. So to help reach the targets, there are several actions on eutrophication in the Baltic Sea or to reduce nutrient inputs. Of course, we are tackling agriculture. We have measures on some traditional or measures regarding some traditional measures like nutrient accounting or fertilization planning, but also some newer methods like application of gypsum or structural lime on the fields. We have measures on strengthening the HELCOM requirements on wastewater treatment, and then we have measures also on shipping Like for example, as you see in this picture, HELCOM has previously sent or applied from IMO, that's the Baltic Sea special area for sewage and also for NOx emissions, and there are actions to enhance the implementation of these special area rules in the Baltic Sea Action Plan. And although we haven't reached the target, I think this figure quite nicely shows that we have still come a long way. These are the waterborne phosphorus inputs to the Baltic Sea since the beginning of the 19th century. And as you can see, there was a very steep increase of the inputs, and it peaked in around 1980, but then we have come down. Although we haven't reached the targets, we have made significant progress. Lots of this progress is due to reduction of inputs from point sources like wastewater treatment plants. This is kind of the easiest emissions to reduce because there is just one point, but it's a lot more difficult to reduce inputs from diffuse sources like agriculture. But yeah, I think it's quite encouraging that we have come so far, although of course the more we reduce the input, the more difficult it gets in the end. But I'm sure that we will get there someday. Then about hazardous substances, that's another big theme in the Baltic Sea Action Plan. We are covering many topics like shipping, response to spills, dredging, submerged hazardous objects, which you're going to hear a bit later today more about, industry, wastewater treatment, pharmaceuticals, awareness raising for the general public, influencing other policies, and then we have also some substance-specific actions. And this also already, I think this picture shows like the big varied different sources of hazardous substances, and also the issue that there are so many substances and we don't even know about all of them that have entered the Baltic Sea. We don't have monitoring data or screening data about all of them. So it's a very varied field and quite difficult to actually know everything about the thousands of chemicals that are out there and might end up in the Baltic Sea. And to tackle this, one important action in the Baltic Sea Action Plan was to create a regional strategic approach for management of hazardous substances in the Baltic Sea region. So to have a more holistic perspective, and we gathered a lot of data from various sources to get the best possible data on what substances are a problem for the Baltic Sea. And then HELCOM just recently adopted a new priority list, HELCOM priority substances list that contains 33 substances that are assessed to be of the most risk to the Baltic Sea. And we are also currently drafting an action plan on hazardous substances. So this work is moving forward, but it is quite difficult just due to the sheer amount of chemicals. We also tackle marine litter. And as mentioned earlier, we have an action plan targeting marine litter. And it has both joint and national actions on reducing the inputs of litter, but also an important part is improving the monitoring of litter, because it's quite difficult to know if you have reduced the inputs or if you have improved the status if the monitoring is not adequate for that. So that's also a big area of interest. And then finally, of course, biodiversity is its own segment and an important part of our work. Just a few words about the big project we have on protecting and restoring the Baltic Sea ecosystem. It's called Protect Baltic. It's financed by Horizon Europe. It started in 2023 and will end in 2028. It has 17 partners from 7 Baltic Sea countries, and the HELCOM Secretariat is the lead partner. And one of the actions in the Baltic Sea Action Plan is to expand MPAs, or marine protected areas, to 30% of the Baltic Sea area with 10% strict protection. And this is also the goal of the EU Biodiversity Strategy 2030. And this project aims to generally bring benefits from biodiversity from this action, so not only marine protected areas that are such on on paper, but that would have proper management as well. And in addition to this action, the project will help fully or partially implement 32 out of the 199 sub-actions and provide support for many more. So it's very, very important for our work. And in addition, it will establish a regional data-driven protection framework to guide governments' planning, management, and restoration. It will assess current protection levels, identify gaps, and support countries in filling them, and enhance regional cooperation through shared objectives and harmonized actions. And it will also support other policies, like in EU level, the EU Biodiversity Strategy, the Marine Strategic Framework Directive, Habitats and Birds Directive, the Common Fisheries Policy, and Nature Restoration Regulation, and also support the Sustainable Development Goal 14 on life below water, and also the global biodiversity targets for the Baltic Sea countries. So that was a quick overview of what we do in HELCOM, what kind of action we are taking for reaching a healthy Baltic Sea. And as you saw, like, we're working in many areas. There is still lots to be done, but we are making progress, but the work still continues. Let's say like this. And if you want to know more, you can go to our website, helcom.fi, and you can also follow us on social media to learn about our latest assessments and reports. And also, of course, we will inform about the progress of the implementation of the Baltic Sea Action Plan there as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Susanna. That's very interesting indeed. We'll see what questions come towards the end of the webinar, but I'm sure there will be a few. That was great. Thank you. Now I'd like to hand over to Patrick Beetze to this and welcome him to this event. He's a former skipper of the research vessel that Frank mentioned, the Aldebaran, which is the Foundation's media and research vessel. And often active in the Baltic Sea, often with school children on board doing marine research, carrying out projects there. So it's a great opportunity for us to welcome you to this webinar, Patrick. We are looking forward to hearing about your work for Sea Terra. You've been head of research and development there since 2018. It's a leading unexploded ordnance survey and clearance company, just to get that right.
Right.
Yes, so, and obviously you're very much at the forefront of this challenge of munition clearance, which I think we're only really beginning to get to grips with and to realise the enormity of the work that needs to be done. You've been one of the major contractors in the German Immediate Action Programme, which has been run by the Federal Ministry for the Environment, now Climate Action, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety. So I'd like to hand over to you if you'd like to share your screen and go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. Hang on a second. Entire screen, share, and start. Can you see my slides? Actually?
Yeah, that all looks great.
Well, then I would like to thank you very much for the kind words of introduction. I was actually planning to introduce myself, but now we can save those valuable minutes and go get right into it. I will talk about unexploded ordnance and dumped munition in the sea. And I will talk to it from well, we are not a research institute, we are really a commercial company, and I will talk to it from the perspective of a commercial company that's actually doing this work. So it's going to be a slight shift in perspective, I suppose. The outline of the talk is to give you a brief introduction and overview of what we are really talking about. And then I will get in with one slide mentioning current research projects. So whoever wants to actually, do some further reading and see what's going on, I've put it all on one page, and I will quickly comment on what's going on within the research and let's say like technical innovation community, before I will spend the valuable minutes that I have on the immediate action program of the federal government, which phase 2 is still ongoing, but phase 1 has been completed last year and is actually quite an outstanding program, and we are very, very proud to be part of this. before I have a little summary and an outlook. Well, the question is, what are we talking about? We're basically talking about two different things. And one is dump munition. That's what pretty much a lot of people talk about. And that is munition that has been intently dumped into the ocean just to get rid of it. It was piled in huge piles all over the Baltic Sea, all over the North Sea, and many other places. And in theory, those locations have been well documented, and the stuff that has been dumped was dumped without a detonator, so it is relatively safe. But unfortunately, it's not quite the way it really is. It really should be in theory, and even the stuff that was dumped the proper way is causing huge troubles at the moment because it starts to corrode. It's really at the surface, and it's causing. It is an absolute nightmare, and the numbers are mind-blowing. The other stuff we are talking about is what is called unexploded ordnance. And that was basically stuff that was fired during the war, but did not explode. And on average, you can assume that about 10% or more of all weapons fired did actually not explode, but they are basically still there. This is a problem on land, and it's a huge problem offshore, because it's even more difficult to find and get rid of it. And it's not a small problem, actually, because just to give you an idea, even in areas where there was no munition dumped and there was no major battle going on, so areas that should really be absolutely clear of munition, if we have a project, basically we have to clear an area because there's a construction project going on, a pipeline, a harbor construction project, a cable line, or a wind park area. All of those have been cleared. Even in those areas, we find about 1 to 2 UXOs per hectare. Like every 100 by 100 meter, there's 1 to 2 objects which were not supposed to be there. This is enormous. And give you an example, we have one clearance operation at the moment. It's going on for almost a year now in an area that is not a dump site. And we have located about 140 large UXOs, over 400, 500 kilos so far, in that one single project alone, and there's dozens going on. So it's not like, oh yeah, you find 1 or 2 pieces of unexploded here and there, but they're really all over the place, and the numbers are truly astonishing. Before I go on, I would like to emphasize that this is not only a German problem, it's a worldwide problem. And looking at this chart of Europe, it just basically makes your heart stop. I mean, the stuff, and this is just the known dumping sites, that stuff is everywhere. And for those of you who are actually in for some light bedtime reading, there was a new study by the Geneva Institute for Humanitarian Demining that just came out like 1 or 2 days ago. I've put the link at the bottom. This chart was actually taken off that study, and it gives you quite a nice introduction to the larger problem. And coming back to Germany, again, for people who actually want to go more into it, there is a website of the expert committee Munition in the Ocean, which is called munitionimmeer.de. And the chart I show above is actually taken from their website, and it basically shows the German munition dump sites, actually the known ones. And it gives the current numbers, which is 1.3 tons of conventional munition and 90 tons of chemical munition in the North Sea, German waters alone, and about 300 tons of conventional and 500 tons of chemical munition in the Baltic Sea. German waters alone, we have in the Baltic, we have over 1 million tons of conventional and 40,000 tons of chemical munition in the total Baltic. So we're looking at a huge amount of munition we're dealing with here. So the question is, why do we care? I mean, that stuff is underwater, you can't see it. So what's the problem? well, there's actually three big problems with it. First, there's still the risk of explosion. The risk of explosion when there is a construction going on, or let's say like for fishermen or like anchoring ships, but that's not really all. Well, data from hydrophones suggest that there is about 1 to 2 spontaneous explosion of old munition in European waters per day. And it's been going on for like decades. So in other words, what's down there, well, it's most of the times nobody sees it, actually almost never, but stuff just explodes spontaneously. So it's still dangerous. And the second reason why we should actually care is because of toxic contamination. The image I actually show you, actually the image of that explosion up there was an explosion on a sandbank we have done on behalf of a customer. So we actually took the UXO out of the water, put it on a sandbank to minimize the impact on the marine environment, and it was blown up on the sandbank. It's a huge bang, so that stuff is really, really dangerous. And what you see below is an image from our trawler system in the Baltic Sea, and you can actually see corroded shells and totally exposed TNT material from, I think it was a torpedo head. And the problem we have is that explosive substances like TNT, they dissolve and they get into the marine environment and they accumulate. They accumulate in mussel, they accumulate in fish. And so eventually they will go into the total food chain and, well, end up with us because we eat the fish as well. And it's actually, it's known to cause cancer. It's known to cause genetic mutations. So it's really poisonous. It's really poisonous stuff. And the clock is ticking because the metal shells, which actually protect the marine environment from the toxic substances inside, these shells are rotting away, and they because they rust. And now is the time where actually between now and the next 10 years to come is the critical time before most of them will have been penetrated at some point. And the last reason, which actually has come to mind only recently, is security concerns. What you see up there is a side scan image we have taken in Lübeck Bay during the German Immediate Action Program. And what you see below is a photogrammic reconstruction of those munition piles in Lübeck Bay by the Geomar. And you see that in really shallow water, very close to land, there's huge piles of munition. Very easily accessible, let's say like 10 to 20 meters of water. Every sports diver can get to it, and that is causing increasing security concerns. So another argument why we should really get going. Actually, it's not like nothing is happening. So I would like to bring to focus on a lot of projects and initiatives which are actually happening, mostly from the scientific community, but also including the industry. Like the projects marked in red are projects we are actually currently actively involved in. This list is by no means complete. It's just the programs which came to mind when I was actually designing that talk today. So this is basically the stuff I know. There's probably a million more going on when you look into the national programs of the single countries. And since we had Susanna here from Helcom, I have actually included a little something from the Baltic Sea Action Plan. And in Sector 34, it basically states that we have to develop a best environmental practice for comprehensive risk assessment, munitions, wrecks, and hazardous submerged objects by 2025, which, if I'm not mistaken, is this year. And we have to implement the best available technologies for environmentally sound and safe management by 2028. And Susanna, I can assure you we are working on it. So to quickly go over the projects, well, basically they cover all kinds of aspects. And whoever is really interested. All of these projects are online. All of these projects have a website. All of these projects have outcome and reports which are publicly available. So whoever wants to get into it, go into it. But the point is, they take care about all kind of aspects of munition in the ocean. So they care about the chemical and biological aspects, how to detect explosives in the water, and how it actually affects marine life and how it accumulates in the food chain. They take they work on autonomous vehicles and effective survey methods. They look into artificial intelligence for data evaluation, for risk assessment, and for object reconstruction. And they look into wrecks, and there's a lot of wrecks loaded with munition, and they pose their own specific danger to the environment. They look into legal and administrative aspects, which is also not very, very simple. I mean, who's responsible? How can people work together? There is the legal aspects in Europe are very, very, very difficult to, since they're totally different in each country. And they look into efficient methods for removal and disposal, last but not least. And one of the programs looking into efficient methods for removal and disposal is actually the German Immediate Action Program. And I'm going to spend my few valuable minutes which I have on that program because it's really an outstanding effort. So it's like the first program to test existing technologies for survey and salvage on a live target, on a large scale, on a dump site. I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of projects, commercial projects going on when it comes to construction site and clearance for for commercial maritime projects. But that was the only, the first and so far only effort when it comes to the clearance of dump sites. And it's actually split in two phases. The total volume is 1 million euro. So it's quite a bit of money the German government has actually invested in it. In phase one, 1/3 of the money was spent, and that went into number one, identification and exploration and the mapping, the retrieval and the sorting of the material. And that has been finished last year in like 2 or 3 different positions in the Baltic Sea. Phase 2 is actually designing and possibly building a treatment and disposal platform, and that phase is ongoing. And whoever wants to have some more information, the Federal Ministry for Environment actually has lots of information on the website, and I have put the link below. So whoever's interested, have a look. It's really interesting. Very quickly, I'm just basically going to talk only about what we have done, and I leave whatever they have done to my colleagues whenever they give a talk. We have done work in 2 locations in Lübeck Bay, marked here. The one is, the major one is actually Pelzerhaken, and the second one was Hafkrug. And we have investigated 93 hectares in Pelzerhaken and 27 hectares in Hafkrug to relocate the munition and to document what's really there. How is that immediate action program set up? Basically, the ultimate target is actually not the work itself, but it's the scalability concept. This is what we were supposed to write. We were supposed to do the survey, to do the salvage, to document what goes wrong, to document what works well, to actually feed that back into the current process, and by the end of the day, come up with a scalability concept of how to do that in the future in a more efficient way. And it involves survey clearance and the wet storage, where we actually park the munition after we have taken it out, because we can't dispose of it on land. And it involves the technology, the methodology, documentation, and safety regulations. And just very briefly, because time is a little running out for me here, if we compare, well, you can actually see in the shapes on the left-hand side is the known is the known piles, and the magnetometry, and you can see on the side scan data below that this is the piles which actually show up on on the surface. But if you look into our magnetometry data, you find that this is just the tip of the iceberg, especially in Pelzerhaken. And on the left-hand side is a magnetometry image of the whole area. And I just let that sink in. In other words, there is lots more below the surface than what meets the eye. So this is a strong indication that the problem is actually way worse than we thought it would be. So very quickly, what did we do for salvage? On the lower right-hand corner is a little movie. We experimented with special grabbers, which we signed up in the office to actually try to avoid diving crews, which was part of the intention. We have designed special salvage baskets, and the grabber actually grabs the targets, puts it in the basket comes up on top. And there it has to be, well, now it's getting into the basket, and I'm changing the slides. And there we actually have to see what we find. So we have to open the boxes. If this is a box, we have to see what really is inside. Some documentation we have, but that we have to fix it. And then we have to sort it. I mean, there's a basket on the left-hand side. This is how the boxes come up. Then we have to sort them. We have to count them. We have to repackage them. We have to put them in specialized containers, because at the moment we can't dispose of it on land. The infrastructure is just not there. And these specialized containers we have put in a wet storage area. So if we can dispose of it on land, we can easily pick them up and get rid of them. Last but not least, out of it, even after quite a few weeks on the water, you can see we have managed to get rid of some stuff. You can actually see the stuff we picked up and we put in the basket, but we barely scratched the surface of what was there. So there's so much more work to do. Which brings me to a summary and outlook. I'm going to make that very brief. I hope I made the point clear that from our point, the threat is real and the clock is really ticking. And I hope I brought the point across that the challenge we are facing is enormous. But it's not, we shall not despair. It can be done. We have proven that it can be done. And with modern technology, let's say like our robot technology, robotics and autonomous vehicles and remote controlled vehicles, we can get it done much safer. We can get it done much cheaper, and we can get it done much more quickly than we could have done it in the past. But, and here's the big but, we need to get started. And the point is, all these research projects, they're really nice, and they're really necessary. But if there's no real work, then there's no real solution. And unless we get into gear and take the next step and really start clearing it, we will not have an industrialized solution. Because out of research projects, the last sentence in every research project is always more research is needed. Well, it's self-explaining. Of course, they need the research. But if we want to get the work done, we need to actually do it and improve while we are doing it. We need a market, and then we can actually get all our fantastic ideas into reality. And if we can't do this on a research project, we have to do it in the real world on real projects. And I would like to thank you very much for listening to that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Where's my mouse? Hang on a second. Now this is going to get interesting. Here's my mouse. Stop sharing.
Thank you, Patrick.
Okay.
Super. That was fascinating. Quite scary. I'm not sure that I'm going to be swimming off the beach of Pelzerhaken for the next few years, but
Well,
yeah.
I do.
Okay, well, if you do, then maybe we all can continue to do that. Thank you. Now, I would like to hand over to Alina Dahlmann. She wasn't on the program, but I think it's very fitting that she has asked to share a couple of slides with us and to speak for a few minutes. Alina's from the Schleswig-Holstein Ministry for Energy Transition, Climate Protection, Environment and Nature. And she's going to say a few words about the upcoming conference in Kiel, the Kiel Munition Clearance Week. So it's taking place in June, and it looks at driving global progress in munitions clearance at sea. So Alina, I will hand over to you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you a lot for the invitation. And I will share the slides now. Hopefully that works. Okay, I hope you can see something.
Yes, but you're not in presentation mode.
I'm not in presentation mode. Oh, it's probably on the wrong screen. Oh, great. I think it will work as well. So, yes, my name is Alina Dahlmann. I'm working for the Environmental Ministry in Schleswig-Holstein in Kiel. And the topic I'm working with is the problem of ammunition in the sea and how to deal with it. So, yeah, today we already heard a lot about the importance of cleaning hazardous substances from the sea. And one of them is ammunition in the sea. And now we know how difficult it is, and that there has to be a lot of things to be taken in consideration, and a lot of stakeholders has to deal with this topic. In the last decades of years, there had been taken a lot of research to investigate the negative effects of the ammunition in the sea, and we almost know a lot of about the problems, but what we need to do now is to act. And we need to act together as a community to deal with the topic. And therefore, I would like to introduce you to the Kiel Munition Clearance Week. So in 2021, it took place for the first time. But we need to move forward, as I already told you. To find driving solutions about the munitions that pose a critical global challenge, threatening our ecosystems, the human safety, and the maritime infrastructure. So from 18th to the 20th of June, the next Kiel Munition Clearance Week will take place for the second time. And there you have the possibility to meet leading experts and innovators, decision makers from policy, industries, scientists, and national authorities. Through these 3 days, you have the possibility to discuss the important topic of ammunition clearance, to drive global process in the ammunition clearance at sea. During this conference, there will be 8 panels that show different perspectives of the topic. One of them could be, or will be, the lesson from the German pilot program, which we already heard about right now. Another panel session will be about achieving environmental and economic sustainability in munitions clearance. You can hear about innovation and unmanned systems, about data management, and, for example, about creating legal frameworks, which we have to investigate for the munition clearance topic. Moreover, there will be a side event about how to communicate the legacy of explosives, like a dialogue with the public. And we will have stakeholder workshops over there and tech sessions, which you can see there. So it is really an interesting conference, which you should definitely join. And you can hear about 40 speakers, which share their different perspectives and excellence on the topic. And of course, there will be space in between the panel sessions to have a talk, to discuss, and to find new ways together. So our mission is to shape the future of munition clearance together. And we are really looking forward to see you in Kiel. And on the screen, you can see a code. And if you click it, or if you just scan it, you can join our conference. So I would be very happy to see you in Kiel And if there are any questions, don't hesitate to contact me on this contact detail you can see on the slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Alina. I've actually put the link to the short video that you sent me in the chat. So if anybody wants to watch that, it takes you to a YouTube link. Right. If you can stop sharing,
yes,
then we can come to the next part where it's over to you. If anybody has any questions, then feel free now, please, to put your hand. Oh, we have one straight away. Then Von Petrolus. Let's see. Just trying to allow you. Oh, Pierre, I might need you here. It doesn't seem that I can. Oh, yes, I can. Kamera zulassen. And
Oh,
there we go.
hello. Hello. Thank you for, first of all, I am thankful and grateful that you are organizing this event. It's very interesting, and I am Domas Petrulis. I am from DG Mare, and I am directly involved in UXO. I am assistant policy officer DG Mare. So it's very few very short practical questions. One for Patrick, another for Alina. And regarding this immediate, this 100 million program, German, it's, as you said, like the situation is mind-boggling, but this program is also mind-boggling. We admire, we very delightful that you are pushing forward this initiative like Germans. And what kind of actual like kilos of UXO did you remediate and took from the bed? As Wolfgang said, it's very few because it's only first phase of this program. Yeah, it's like exploration and identification. And another question to Alina regarding this week kill clearance. We still haven't received the program, like because we have several events going on when we have to participate in this, and I asked organizers, but we haven't yet received any detailed program. So if you have more about that, maybe it would be very good that you share with us. Thank you so much.
Well, Alina, if you don't mind, I take the first question. As a matter of fact, I don't know. I would have to look into our final report to see how much that really was. But as a matter of fact, since we mostly took out boxes of small munition, we had lots and lots and lots of boxes, and they were actually filled with small caliber munition. So the overall number of boxes was quite impressive. The overall number of kilos is actually not, because the stuff we took out was mostly small stuff, and most of the time went into assessing the dangers, documenting what was really there, what was supposed to be there, what did we find, what the condition really was, and this kind of stuff. So looking at the absolute kilos would probably be a little disappointing compared to we take out big bombs, 500 kilos a piece. So, but I certainly, I don't have the numbers at the moment. I can look it up for you if you want to.
Yeah, it's like as I spoke last with Wolfgang. He said it's not as you said, it's not a lot. Not that we are not talking about the tons. Yes, I think
actually we are talking about tons, but not like hundreds of tons.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, maybe I can continue. Thank you for the input, Thomas. The problem about the program is that there are always changes because there are people, more speakers, and you always have to change the time slots. But on the website, you can see which panel session takes place on which day. And an official program will be uploaded on the website soon. But nevertheless, I will talk to the organizing team that you will get an answer and we'll get a program as far as it is by now.
Yeah, if I can just, my head of unit, Mr. Christos Economos, is going to participate there as a speaker. So, and I'm just I'm interested overall, like week, but still, it would be the most important that we get to know which, time slot and which day it will be.
Of course, yeah.
Thanks.
Frank, did you have a question? You had your hand up.
No, not a question, but I was very happy to see the really practical things that were shown in the small video. And Julia, we also have a video on the website, which is also on the vessel Cap San Diego in Hamburg Harbor. When we make a first survey there are some more videos about this ammunition, and it's really fascinating to see it. And maybe we can share the link here in the meeting.
The link to the website, yes, of course we can. We'll do that in a minute. Do we have any other questions? Maybe then I can put one to you, Susanna. What interests me, a lot of what HELCOM is doing is involving a variety of stakeholders. How do you do that? How do you bring fishermen? How do you bring, or fisher folk? How do you bring the shipping industry, the farmers together? Do you organize maybe a series of town halls, or how do you get such different groups of society to come together, particularly maybe when you're talking about setting up a marine protected area or something along those lines?
Well, in HELCOM we have observer organizations. So, for example, we have the BFFE, which is the Baltic Farmers Forum for Environment, which is the kind of roof organization for the farmer organizations in the Baltic Sea region. So we get input from these organizations. They take part in our meetings, etc. But of course, if there's more like a national action, like creating an MPA, then it's more like national work to include the local stakeholders there. But yes, the observers have the right to take part in all our meetings, and we really get valuable input, not only like the sectoral organizations, but also from environmental NGOs. So they are a really important part of our work.
And do you find that they are happy to work together with you, or is there some maybe animosity between the different groups? Or, I mean, they're often coming from very different different backgrounds with very different priorities, different aims. I imagine it could be quite challenging in this respect.
Well, I guess it depends on the topic, but of course, like nowadays, the environmental aspects are part of all sectors and their work as well. And of course, it's always good to hear from the stakeholders how, if you're planning some kind of new recommendation, for example, how it would impact their work and what are the practical considerations that they would need to have. So it's really good to get their input, of even if they might not always agree, but at least we can move in a direction that our actions are actually practical and they have an impact. So I think it's really important to be in dialogue with these organizations.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. I have a question in the chat from Louisa Wagner, I think, exactly from. She says, I'd like to know more about detection methods for chemical threats. And if there is a way to include citizen scientists, divers, etc., in geolocating areas, and can certain materials be resourced and recycled, justifying infrastructure on land? Sounds like it's one for you, Patrick. We can't hear you. You're muted, Patrick.
Sorry, my mouse disappeared and I couldn't unmute myself. Well, as a matter of fact, recycling these kind of materials to get to that is not done at the moment because it's it would be really difficult. At the moment, what we do with munition is basically we burn it. There are special very high temperature ovens on land, and the large munition is actually we just cut it in pieces, special saws, and then it's just being burned in a specialized oven. And your first question I didn't quite get. Did it have to do with chemical munition, or how it could be detected, or what was that?
Yeah, so Louisa said she'd like to know about the detection methods for chemical threats.
Oh, for chemical threats in general, not about chemical munition, but well, obviously there is lab methods where how you can measure the content of, let's say, like toxins like TNT and other explosives in water or in biological tissue. And there is methods obviously and the biologists actually look into, well, let's say like mussels, and they study mussels and see how healthy they are if they have a high concentration of these toxins inside versus like mussels which do not. And this is how they derive, the kind of the various, well, biological impact factors these chemicals could possibly have. But yes, they can be detected, but it's not really easy. We are working with the Fraunhofer Institute in one of the projects as we speak, and they develop an electrochemical sensor, so it can actually be done in situ. But at the moment, we are basically talking about taking fairly large water samples, concentrate the water, and analyze it in the lab, some multispectral analyzer method, and it's actually quite an effort. You need a specialized lab for it.
So we've got a follow-up comment from Louisa where she says she was thinking about sensors that can send alerts in vivo.
Well, as I mentioned, it's difficult because concentrations are relatively low, but they accumulate in, let's say, like mussels or other species. But we are, well, there is work being done as we speak at the Fraunhofer Institute on a electrochemical sensor, which can do continuous measurements in situ. And in theory, if this works in a stable fashion, we could actually run continuous tests while, either stationary or from AUVs, or while we actually do some work in the area. But this is actually, at the moment, it's still in development. But it's not that it doesn't exist. It's on the way.
And
but
maybe
you can't
then
buy it. You can't go to Amazon and buy it.
And there was one part of the question about including citizen scientists. So divers maybe in geolocating areas that where there is munition.
Well, we are not a research institute, and if we work in an area, we have to declare it a risk zone, and we have to we have to exclude the general public, meaning we have to set buoys, we have to set a dedicated vessel that keeps everybody out. And for insurance and a million legal reasons, I don't have the time to go into, neither I know. We could never include somebody while we are actually working in this kind of work. And I'm very sure Frank knows more about research diving and the legal complications, but possibly a research institute could include these kind of divers if they have the necessary qualifications. I don't know. Frank will know. I'm at loss here.
Yeah, Patty, so I really don't know, and I will warn everybody to stay away. So normally Germany is a very careful country, and there are only some small areas which are closed for marine traffic, where there is a lot of ammunition on the bottom. So I would recommend to all divers to stay away from this kind of ammunition, because as Patty already mentioned, most of them are not dangerous, but it could happen that there is some chemicals around, or you are in danger if you're close. So when we did the first investigation with really professional divers, they came up and they were very, very shocked. It's seen in the video, and please stay away.
Perhaps then we can push our citizen science project for divers, which is then less dramatic. It's more about collecting temperature, salinity, pH data and sharing that with EMODNet via an app with the SSI diving app. So that's a project that we're running at the German Ocean Foundation as well. It's slightly less dangerous, but also very, very relevant. Right, if there are no further questions, so we're well over the hour anyway. Thank you very much indeed to the three of you for speaking. Thank you, Susanna. Thank you, Patrick, and also Alina for joining us. Thank you to everybody that has participated. I hope that you enjoyed it, that you found it interesting.